In central London lies a prime stretch of real estate with a long and storied past. Once home to the Royal Mint, where every British coin was struck, it now finds itself at the center of one of the UK's most heated diplomatic and security debates. What should have been a routine embassy relocation has instead snowballed into a geopolitical flashpoint, pitting heritage campaigners, intelligence chiefs, politicians, and local residents against one of the world's most powerful states. At stake is China's ambition to build its biggest embassy in Europe on British soil. On paper, it looks like a straightforward upgrade. In reality, it has become a flashpoint in the great power rivalry of the 21st century, a plot with prestige. Embassies are more than just office blocks housing administrators in suits. They are potent symbols of national prestige, architectural statements designed to broadcast a nation's power, heritage, or cultural aspirations. For China, securing Royal Mint Court in 2018 was a major coup. Spread across 5.5 acres in one of London's most historic districts, it offers both prime location and monumental symbolism. Sitting in the shadow of the Tower of London and just steps from Tower Bridge, the site could not be more prominent. Historically, the Mint was placed here precisely because of its proximity to power. The tower's soldiers were on hand should anything threaten Britain's currency production. That same gravitas now makes the land highly desirable to Beijing, which has long complained that its current embassy is outdated and too small for its needs. But while prestige is guaranteed, security experts warn that the location could offer more than symbolic advantage. With the City of London's financial heart on one side and Canary Wharf's glass towers on the other, the new complex would sit squarely between Europe's two largest financial hubs. And therein lies the controversy: gateways for diplomacy and espionage. Diplomacy has always walked hand in hand with intelligence. Under international law, embassy buildings are sovereign territory belonging to the nation they represent. This legal immunity shields not only diplomats, but also whatever activity occurs behind those high walls. Philip Ingram, a former senior British military intelligence officer, explains that embassies are dual purpose. Officially, they manage relations and provide consular services. Unofficially, they are excellent covers for information gathering. You're there to understand your host country and report back, he notes, adding that such work ranges from open source research to far more covert methods. It's an open secret that embassies worldwide house intelligence staff. The larger and more technologically advanced the mission, the more scope there is for surveillance and cyber operations. In the case of China's proposed new London base, alarm bells are ringing especially loudly. From Qing dynasty roots to modern ambitions, China's diplomatic footprint in Britain is not new. In fact, London hosted Beijing's very first embassy back in 1876. The Qing dynasty established its mission following the so-called Margery Affair, when a British explorer was killed in China. The fallout forced Beijing to send an envoy to Queen Victoria, setting a precedent for formal relations. That original building, rebuilt in the 1980s, still serves as China's UK headquarters. Yet as China's global ambitions have expanded, so too has its need for space. Visa services and consular duties now sprawl across separate offices across the capital, an arrangement Beijing has long deemed inefficient. Hence, the purchase of Royal Mint Court, a chance to consolidate everything under one high-profile roof. Chipperfield's embassy. To transform the site, Beijing hired Sir David Chipperfield, one of Britain's most acclaimed architects. His designs balanced heritage preservation with contemporary flair. The plan called for the restoration of the historic Johnson Smirk building as the embassy's ceremonial centerpiece. Elsewhere, outdated 1980s office blocks would be stripped of their energy-inefficient glass facades and reimagined as staff housing, cultural venues, and visa centers. In a nod to Sino-British history, one building would be clad in Celadon green ceramic tiles, referencing centuries of Chinese pottery. But beyond the architectural flourishes, the design included the less glamorous but critical layers of embassy security. Reinforced walls, blast-resistant bollards, and new surveillance measures were proposed. A local park was earmarked for redesign to deter protests, while hundreds of thousands of pounds were pledged for CCTV upgrades in the surrounding borough. Still, one feature stood out as particularly controversial: the basement. The basement mystery. Planning documents revealed extensive underground space beneath the complex. Much of the detail was redacted, fueling speculation. Security analysts warned the basement's size, and secrecy suggested it could house surveillance equipment, secure communications hubs, and even Faraday cage protections against external monitoring. What made matters worse was geography. Running through the area are sensitive communications cables connecting London's financial districts. Though their exact routes are classified, the risk of proximity alone prompted Sir Richard Dearlove, former head of MI6, to publicly oppose the project. If there are cables under the site, he warned, the Chinese could tap into them with impunity. Such concerns are not without precedent. In 2020, Ireland blocked a Russian embassy expansion in Dublin over a similar proposed basement. For London, the suspicion was that China's vast underground footprint was designed with far more than parking spaces in mind. A cold reception. Initially, Beijing framed the new embassy as the golden fruit of what officials dubbed a China-UK golden era. But by the time formal plans were submitted in 2021, the diplomatic climate had soured dramatically. Relations between London and Beijing had cooled following disputes over Hong Kong, human rights abuses in Xinjiang, and security fears around Chinese tech companies like Huawei. Heritage campaigners objected to foreign redevelopment of a historic site, while local residents complained of disruption and falling property values. Then came the intelligence community. MI5, MI6, and even the FBI voiced concerns that Royal Mint Court could become a hub of industrial-scale espionage. The embassy's line of sight to London's financial heartlands made it an ideal listening post for intercepting wireless and satellite signals. By December 2022, local planners unanimously rejected the application. It appeared China's ambitions were dead in the water. A political twist. The story might have ended there, were it not for Britain's July 2024 general election. With Labour sweeping into power, Beijing saw an opening. Just days after the change of government, the embassy plans were quietly resubmitted. Normally, local councils have the final say on planning applications, but in rare cases, the central government can call in projects for national review. In November 2024, that is precisely what happened. The Secretary of State for Housing took the decision out of Tower Hamlets Council's hands, triggering fury among campaigners who saw it as political interference. Why the reversal? Analysts suggest Labour, focused on reviving economic growth, is more open to re-engaging with China. With Britain desperate for trade and investment after years of stagnation, the embassy may be seen as a bargaining chip for warmer ties with the world's second largest economy, and the backlash redoubles. If Beijing thought the political winds had shifted in its favor, it miscalculated the public mood. Activists, newspapers, and politicians across party lines rallied against the embassy reboot. Tower Hamlets Council symbolically rejected the resubmission, despite knowing the final call lay above them. International allies also weighed in. The White House reportedly warned the embassy could compromise intelligence sharing between Britain and the United States. Security chiefs stressed that the risks were too great to ignore, even as politicians weighed the economic benefits. The controversy has become a litmus test for how Britain balances its desire for trade with the imperative of national security. What comes next? As of now, the future of China's Grand Embassy remains uncertain. A government decision is expected later this year. Should it be approved, construction will begin on what would be the largest Chinese mission in Europe. Should it be blocked, Britain risks retaliatory consequences, including Beijing stalling or blocking the UK's own plans for a new embassy in Beijing. So what do you think? Is China's new embassy in London a symbol of growing cooperation, or a hidden risk to Britain's national security? Let us know your thoughts in the comments, because this debate is far from over. If you enjoyed this deep dive and want to see more stories where politics, history, and architecture collide, make sure to hit that like, and don't forget to subscribe. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.